All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on Master's Studies at KTH, Sweden's leading technical university. Before we begin, I'd like to inform you that you can use the Q&A function throughout this entire webinar to ask any questions that you may have that we may not cover or that maybe you need more clarity on. We have several staff in the chat to answer your questions, so they will work to answer those as fast as possible. So with that, let's begin. My name is Samantha Arpas, and I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. I'm in my second year of my master's studies here at KTH in the Sustainable Technology program, and I'm joined here with...
My name is Carlos Casanueva. I am originally from Spain, and I am associate professor in railway vehicle technology.
All right. So during this 30-minute presentation, we'll talk to you about Sweden, Stockholm, and all the preparations you should do before coming to KTH and living in Sweden. And as I mentioned before, if you have any questions at all, please use the Q&A function. We will answer your questions as soon as possible. All right, so let's dive in. I'm going to start by talking about Sweden. Sweden is known as an open, multicultural society with a tradition of welcoming students from all over the world. With 10 million inhabitants, Sweden is the third largest country in the EU by area. So it's not that crowded, lots of room for nature. In fact, 17% of Swedes were born in another country. Sweden is ranked as the world's second most sustainable country and is known for being a very progressive society. For example, Sweden is ranked 5th in the world when it comes to gender equality, according to the World Economic Forum. The climate in Sweden varies a lot from summer to winter, the average temperature in January being around -5 degrees Celsius, and in July, when it's summer, the temperature is around 22 degrees Celsius.
And there's also a Swedish saying that says that you can experience all the 4 seasons in a single day. So weather can be, especially in spring and fall, it can be quite unpredictable.
Which I think is very interesting, especially if you're not used to it, but a very cool thing to experience. Something that is very amazing about Sweden is that Swedes speak excellent English, making it really easy to get around in society, and one of the reasons why I chose to come to Sweden in the first place. And something that you can notice is that on the screen, we have a picture of the Northern Lights, otherwise known as the Aurora Borealis. And sometimes, if we're really lucky here in Stockholm, we can actually see the Northern Lights. I know last year I was able to see the Northern Lights from my accommodation right here on campus, which was an incredible experience. So an overview about Swedish industry and innovation. Sweden is home to many multinational companies, some of which you may have heard of, such as IKEA, Ericsson, H&M, Saab, and Electrolux. And Sweden is ranked 2nd in the world when it comes to innovation.
And some examples of the Swedish innovations, quite modern ones like Skype, Spotify, or Bluetooth are Swedish, but also other more old-timey ones like Tetra Brick or Tetra Pak. The modern 3-point seatbelt is also Swedish, and the Peacemaker. So in this picture in the middle, you can see the ceremony for the Nobel Prize in Stockholm. And I'm guessing you all know what the Nobel Prize is. It originates from the Swede Alfred Nobel, who was a great inventor, and is mostly famous for inventing dynamite. And I'm guessing for compensating the dynamite invention, the modern Peacemaker and the 3-point seatbelts do save quite a lot of lives around the world nowadays.
With that, let's move on to Stockholm, the capital of Sweden and heart of Swedish trade, business, and innovation, and where we are sitting right now. Stockholm is home to 2.1 million people, and of those 2.1 million, 85,000 are students. It's known for its rich cultural history and closeness to nature with 26 city parks. And I cannot stress this enough. I have never lived in a city that is so well connected to nature, especially a capital city, mind you. Stockholm is built on 14 islands with an archipelago of 24,000 islands stretching out into the Baltic Sea. And furthermore, if that wasn't already bonus points, Stockholm is ranked as the 5th most livable city in the world.
And I have to stress this also, it's a great example of how a low populated country or how a big city in a low populated country can look like, with very nice low-rise buildings, lots of plazas, lots of parks, lots of open spaces to enjoy the city. It's a great city.
Very happy to live here. So with that, we're going to dive into some information about KTH. Sweden's leading technical university. But before that, you're going to see a poll pop onto your screen. And the question is, how familiar are you with KTH? Your options being, I don't know anything, I know a little bit, or I'm an expert. So just take the time to fill that out and we'll continue. So now, a bit of an overview about KTH. KTH was established in 1827, and the reigning Swedish King Carl Gustaf XVI is the guardian of the university. And since the start, KTH has been at the center of many of the technological advances in Sweden. In the early 1950s, the country's first nuclear reactor was installed right here on campus. And at the same time, Sweden's very first TV station went on air across the street. Over the last 190 years, KTH has gone on to become one of the most prominent technical universities in Europe, attracting talent all over the world. The graduation ceremony actually takes place in the same building as the Nobel Prize ceremony. And KTH professor Hannes Alfvén was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1970 for physics. And this was for his work on fundamental work and discoveries in magnetohydrodynamics with fruitful applications in different parts of plasma physics. Some really cool stuff. In terms of population, KTH has over 13,000 full-time students from all over the world. Of them, 1,500 are international master's students, and KTH also attracts around 2,000 PhD students, many of them from outside of Sweden. In terms of teaching staff, there is 840 teaching staff, 300 which are professors, and an overall staff of 5,000. Now, when we look at KTH today, KTH is ranked 73 in the world in the 2024 QS World Rankings. And KTH is also top 50 in, for example, electrical engineering, materials science, mechanical engineering, architecture, and civil engineering. You can also see two pictures from two important events in the last years, being when former President Barack Obama visited KTH to hear about sustainable innovations, and when Professor Stephen Hawking visited KTH for a conference in black hole theory. All right, so now on the screen, you see a map of KTH. KTH has 5 campuses in and around Stockholm, and the main campus is located at the edge of central Stockholm in the Royal National Park.
And with this bird view of the city, you can see actually how nice the low-rise buildings and the open green spaces you have in between them, the parks and the big streets. But another point that you can see here, or there is actually some campuses that are strategically placed to be able to collaborate with the industry that is placed in those areas. The best example for this is the ICT education, which is located in Kista, in KTH Kista. And that's the biggest ICT cluster in Europe, with companies like IBM and Microsoft, but of course, Ericsson as neighbors.
Absolutely. And so I just want to point out some more places on the map here for you. You'll notice that right at the front of campus, you have a public transport hub. This is where you can reach KTH by metro or bus. You'll also notice that our library is in the center of campus. We have a student union building, and we even have a sports center in the back of campus. Something you'll also notice is that there is accommodation on campus. So if you're from outside of the EU, it's possible that you may live in one of these buildings when you study here at KTH. And you'll also see KTH Kista campus and Solna campus north of our main campus, and KTH Flemingsberg and KTH Södertälje campus, which are located in southern Stockholm. All right, so now in terms of sustainability, KTH is ranked 42 amongst universities worldwide in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, which assesses universities' performance against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
And the graduates of KTH have all the tools and knowledge they need in order to move society in a more sustainable direction. Sustainability is an integral part of all programs, and if you are interested in specific programs, you can go into the website, and that's quite good descriptions of what are the main sustainability goals that are addressed in a specific one. And even if we do have already a very good integration of sustainability, we keep working on this, so the work is never done. We keep improving, and especially now we are integrating social sustainability aspects, like, for instance, equality and diversity perspectives in engineering disciplines. And moving on to a more pragmatic view of the programs and the studies, The studies at KTH, like lots of European universities, are divided into 3 levels. There is the 3 years bachelor level, 2 years master's degree, and then a doctoral degree after that. The bachelor level studies are typically conducted in Swedish. We have one exception, which is the ICT program given in English. And then master and doctoral level studies are in English. And to be eligible for a master program, you do need a bachelor degree or equivalent education. International master students then in the more advanced master level, they typically read the courses with the Swedish 5-year engineering students and the master degree students. So there is a very good mixture of people coming from different backgrounds. In order for you to pursue a doctoral degree, you do need to finish a master's degree, but more information on that will come after. And specifically for master programs, for master degrees, which is probably why you are in this webinar. These are 2-year programs, and it's split into 4 semesters. So the first year there are 2 semesters with courses, and the second year will be the first semester with courses, and the second one that it's fully occupied by the degree project or the master thesis. And some peculiarity from KTH or maybe Sweden is that the semesters are divided into periods. So you can have courses that go only for 2 months. That's quite compact, and the exam comes quite fast for what people is used to from different countries. So that is something to think about when you start your studies.
Absolutely. So now in terms of master's studies at KTH, KTH offers 63 master's programs given by 5 schools within the university. Of these 63 programs, 15 are joint master's programs offered together with other prominent universities. So how this works is students usually spend 1 year at the 2 universities and receive 1 master's degree from each.
There are also other programs that have some international collaboration that are not joint programs. One example that I have close to me is the railway engineering program, where students spend 6 months in the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign in the US.
Very cool. And so there will be school webinars for each of the 5 schools, and these are scheduled in October and November, and the dates will follow in the following slides. All right, so here you can see these are the programs offered at the School of Architecture and Built Environment. And at the school webinar, you'll get to meet program directors and student ambassadors from each of the programs. This is my school, and as I mentioned, I'm part of Sustainable Technology, and you can be at our school webinar on the 14th of November, so save the date. These are the programs offered at the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. So save the date for this school webinar, which will be held on the 9th of November.
This is the Engineering Sciences School where I belong. I typically teach in the railway engineering and rail vehicles part of the vehicle engineering program, but also in engineering physics. And the school webinar will be held on the 7th of November. So save the date. The Engineering Sciences in Chemistry, Biotechnology and Health School, their webinar will be on the 16th of November. You can see here the different programs. And finally, the Industrial Engineering and Management School will have their webinar on the 31st of October. And you can also see the list of available programs here.
All right, so now into studies at KTH. What sets KTH apart from other universities is the personal approach to education. Classes and seminars are held in smaller groups and students are encouraged to solve problems together. I know this is the case for me in my program where all of my projects are group projects, so we really collaborate with each other a lot. Further, KTH encourages innovative ideas and entrepreneurial spirit amongst its students, both as part of courses and also through services like KTH Innovation. And in general, courses consist of things like lectures, seminars, group assignments, laboratory work, and individual studies. And you will study, as Carlos mentioned, 1 or 2 courses at a time, giving you the possibility to focus better on one subject at a time. If there are written exams for these courses, they are done at the end of each course.
And one important thing to highlight is that this last point here, the individual studies, because you typically don't have scheduled all the hours that you will need to work on the course. So you're supposed to be doing full-time studies or full-time work equivalent. But then it's very important that you as a student schedule proactively your own learning, find student friends or student colleagues that you can work with, and participate actively in this student life in order to be able to keep up with the studies.
Absolutely.
Education is also typically done in collaboration with industry, so it can be from program design level until more hands-on labs and invited or guest lectures. And that gives students a very practical knowledge and even contacts in their future careers. There are 12 strategic industry partners at KTH, and with those we have a very strategic level collaboration where we can think about how education should be in a very global way, but enables us also to specifically have lots of opportunities with these big players. If you are a student, for instance, in the electrical engineering or mechanical engineering areas, you will most probably have contact at some point with Scania or Saab or other different Swedish companies that are very like engineering focused. And apart from that, we also have a lot of research culture and research resources. So there is a lot of state-of-the-art labs where you can go or that can be part of those the different courses. And there's also equipment and learning activities that are typically advanced and adapted to the new era, let's say, or modern era.
Absolutely. Now, I know that this is a lot of information that we're throwing at you, and you may think, okay, this is overwhelming. What does this look like when I actually arrive at KTH? And I can speak from experience on my arrival. When I came to KTH, I had an intro from my school about all the practicalities, how to deal with the new systems, how to set up your accounts, how to sign up for courses, all of that right on the first day. Furthermore, I also had access to the international reception, which is basically activities organized for you by our student union. I think it's about a month of activities every single day. So you get to make friends and you get to know KTH in Stockholm more hands-on. So it's a really great experience. And I have to highlight also that part of this international reception will even provide a service from the airport to pick you up at the airport and come straight to KTH campus on your first days here in Stockholm. So it's very accommodating.
And there's many students that appreciate really this, all these different things. And I encourage also the students to participate as much as they can in this student life, even if it's not directly related to studies, because it influences a lot how much you will be, or how happy, let's say, or how engaged you will be in your studies based on everything around them.
It makes up the university experience. So now, on the topic of university experience, student life. So tuition fee paying students and scholarship holders are guaranteed accommodation from KTH for up to 12 months. The monthly cost of living as a student in Stockholm is around $840 to $1,100 American dollars. And this sum includes everything that you need to have a great time in Stockholm. And of course, this amount depends largely on what type of accommodation that you require. But regardless on if you live in the city center or if you live outside of the city center, the standard for living here is very high. The apartments are amazing and transportation is always close. And I cannot stress this enough. There are many ways to travel in and around Stockholm. And this transportation is so well connected that getting between campuses and your home is very quick and easy.
And you can also walk or even cycle all year round. Most accommodation spots are near enough so you can cycle from home to the university. But even in winter, there are students that they just change the tires of their wheels in order to have studded tires and cycle all the way here. Even professors do that sometimes. So about admission requirements, in order to be eligible for a master's studies at KTH, the first thing you need is a bachelor degree or equivalent to a Swedish bachelor degree. There is also the English proficiency that it's important. There are many ways of demonstrating. There are like 7 or 8 different ways you can demonstrate a certain level of English proficiency. But I'd like to highlight this. As Samantha said, there are lots of group work and lots of let's say, oral interactions between students, with the teachers, and so on, discussion-based lectures, sometimes oral exams. So English level is quite important, can be quite important, and a good communication will always be important in this context. There will be also country-specific requirements, so specific countries have extra requirements, and programs have also typically knowledge specific requirements. Even if you have a bachelor, you might need a specific type of bachelor, or you might need a specific type of course or a number of credits or lectures in a specific area. But all this information, which can be very specific for different programs, you can find at the webpage kth.se/master.
And now in terms of application documents, you need to provide a number of documents in your application for it to be complete. And these vary between program and also depending on the country of your previous studies. So all documents are fully explained on our website, but I will give you a quick introduction right now. So the first thing that you'll need to provide is the certificates and diplomas of your completed degrees that are officially issued. You will also need to provide a transcript of completed courses and grades in your degree. You will need to provide proof of English proficiency. And as Carlos had mentioned, what proof of English proficiency is required is dependent on your country of study and if you meet the English requirements through a test or previous studies. You will further need to provide a copy of a passport with personal data and a photograph. And also, as mentioned, there are program-specific documents. So for example, this can be a CV, a letter of motivation, letters of recommendation, or even a summary sheet. And something that is important to note is that you need to supply these documents for all of the programs that you apply to. Great. So now getting into fees and funding. So if you are a non-EU or EEA or Swiss citizen, you are generally required to pay application and tuition fees. So the tuition fee for most two-year master's programs is 342,000 Swedish crowns. And this is the total for 2 years. It's not for each year, it's the entire master. There's also an application fee of 900 Swedish crowns. Now, for the students required to pay tuition fees, there are a range of KTH and external scholarships available. Each year, the KTH scholarship is awarded to around 30 individuals on academic excellence. And I myself have this scholarship, and it includes full tuition. However, living expenses are not included in this scholarship. And then there's also scholarships such as the Swedish Institute scholarships, which are awarded to 300 people per year applying to Swedish universities. And this scholarship does include some living expenses. So there are options out there for you in terms of funding as an international student.
Some numbers about previous years. The acceptance rate for the average acceptance rate for KTH master programs is 32%. This acceptance rate means the number of admitted students in relation to the number of applicants that fulfilled all the requirements. So we do have many more applicants, but some of them are dropped early because they don't have a bachelor or they don't have all the conditions that they need to do that. So this is from all the possible students, around 1/3 of them is the average acceptance. These acceptance rates vary a lot between programs depending on the number of students that want to get in, how attractive the program is, how the size of the program. But if you're interested in the specific numbers, you can go to the webpage, to the KTH webpage, and check those numbers there. To increase the chances that you can get admitted to a program, you can apply up to 4 programs. One thing that I would say is that if you apply to different programs, be very mindful of your, let's say, letters of presentation or similar documents that you provide. Make sure that you're writing the letter for the program and that you're not just taking one default letter and changing some words here and there. And I say from experience, because I've read some of those, and sometimes students don't put a lot of effort and it doesn't look good, of course, to see that all the letters are the same. So be mindful of that and try to focus on why do you want that specific program.
All right, and so I assume that all of you are wondering how to apply, and so here is your guide. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to start by visiting kth.se/master and explore our 63 master's programs. I recommend finding one or more programs that fit your interests. And then on the program pages, you can go in and find the detailed information for each program. So these are the courses, the career opportunities, the focus on sustainability, and then also interviews with students and graduates. The second thing that you're going to do is you're going to check the admission requirements for your programs. And you can find the requirements on the programs you want to apply to on the program pages. As the number of places for each programs, as we had just heard about, is limited and admission is very competitive, meeting the admission requirements is a must for admissions. So if you think the background that you have meets the requirements, then you are ready to start your application. The third step then is to apply through university admissions, and this is the Swedish national application system. So you create an account, you select your programs, and you can select up to 4 programs. Something very important that I always stress in the application period is to rank the order of priority of your programs very carefully. And once you have done that, you submit your application on the 15th of January. When you submit your application, you may also want to apply for the KTH scholarship, and that application will also close on the 15th of January. If you want to apply for the scholarships from the Swedish Institute, that deadline is later on at the end of February. So make sure you're checking their website to see when that deadline is. The fourth step is by February 1st, you have to submit all of your required documents to the applications portal at university admissions. You can find further instructions on how to submit your documents and how documentation requirements may differ country to country at university admissions. They have a really great page. Literally, I'm from Canada, I go click Canada and it has the step-by-step guide, and they have it for almost all countries. Step 5, if you are not an EU, EEA, or Swiss citizen, you have to pay an application fee of 900 crowns, and you pay that fee directly on university admissions on their website, and that application fee deadline is the 1st of February. Then step 6, and I get a lot of questions about this, is to check your admission results. So through the Swedish system, everyone will get acceptance on the same day. So the 21st of March is the admission results decision day, and that will be published on your account at university admissions. You will not find out earlier. It will always be the 21st of March. You do not need to reply to your offer, and if you are admitted, we will contact you and prepare you for your arrival in Stockholm. So save the date, 21st of March. All right, so now looking after KTH, what happens then? So KTH is a leading supplier of CEOs in Swedish industry, and something that we have that's really great at KTH is this career fair, which is the largest in Scandinavia. It's called THS Armada, and it's arranged each year by KTH students, and over 150 companies participate. I cannot stress this enough. This is such a great opportunity to attend. I personally have found internships through my connections that I made at THS Armada and found employment after KTH through Armada. So it is so, so great, and I highly recommend it.
And that's for the general student association, but then there are student sections for different areas, and all those have typically their own fairs more focused on the specific programs. So you can follow those, but there are lots of opportunities. Absolutely.
I would say there's almost a career fair at least once a month, maybe more. So many, many opportunities. Further, KTH is ranked 70th in the world for the QS Graduate Employability Rankings as of 2022. And you can see on the screen, the listed are the most common employers for KTH alumni on LinkedIn. And you will find them in an array of industries at different multinational companies. You'll see KTH is number 1 because a lot of students go to do their PhD, and that is employment. But then you'll see Ericsson, Scania, SEB, Telia, Spotify, the list goes on, and of course is not exhaustive. So then after KTH, getting your first job. So in terms of the stats that we have, over 50% have a job before graduation. And like I just mentioned, this was true for me, and it is true for also many of my friends. The career opportunities are very high. And let's say you don't get your job before graduating, you have 1 year to stay in Sweden and apply for a job or a PhD position. So it's a really nice opportunity to get to expand your network after your studies.
And one tip, let's say maybe to you specifically, don't forget to finish the let's say, the
Absolutely.
studies,
Finish the
even if you
studies.
have a job before finishing, because it can happen that you drag those final courses or final master thesis and so on.
Yeah.
But yes, each year they're also related to this master thesis, right? There is over 1,000, degree project proposals that are posted on the KTH project portal. And it's typically companies like Ericsson, Saab, or Scania that post this. And for every 5 students, one of them gets their first employment through their final degree project. So it's a great chance already of, let's say, getting in the queue for specific companies if you're interested. There are also 19 official alumni groups worldwide, from Silicon Valley to Singapore. So there's quite a good culture on keeping up with your alumni network afterwards. Innovation, it's another very big and important part of KTH. Many students carry on these innovation ideals from KTH after their studies, and over 12% of KTH graduates go on to start their own company at some point. And KTH has a framework in place that enables these students and maybe teachers and employees to create together opportunities for new technology that is useful for society and has an impact on the collective future for the better. These collaborations are typically enabled by the KTH Innovation, which is the group that supports all these initiatives and aims to generate the best possible conditions for these ideas to succeed. And all this support from KTH is typically free of charge, and KTH does not even claim any share about the venture, so it's only support for the sake of it. And some examples of recent innovation ventures from students are looking for solving overproduction, upcycling retired batteries, making local news more accessible to non-Swedish speaking locals, and so on. An example of this constellation of innovative group is that in this year, Google CEO Sundar Pichai came to KTH, visited KTH Innovation. And the biggest focus at that point was AI, because it's a very hot topic. But yeah, as we mentioned before, and as you've seen from the list before, Google was one of the top 10 employers. I believe it was number 8 for KTH graduates. So there are lots of graduates that are ending up in Google. The last step in your studies could be doctoral studies. And if you are a student that enjoys research and academia, you can push a doctoral degree. 12% of international students go on for PhD students afterwards. And then at KTH, doctoral studies consist of 3 years of a full-time research and then 1 year of courses. You, of course, mix them up as you go, but it's more or less like that. We do have right now about 2,000 doctoral students, and more than half of them are international students. If you would like to apply for a doctoral position, then you typically apply in the KTH website, in the portal, and there is typically lots of candidates interested. We run a process where we recruit the most adequate ones in the role and the research group. Often, these new employees or new PhD candidates are KTH students that end up interested in the research of the specific groups. One of the main pros of studying doctoral studies in Sweden is that PhDs are employed by the university. That means that you receive a monthly salary, so it's not, you do pay taxes. And this means also that after 4 years of studies, you are eligible for a permanent residence permit.
All right, so if you want to find out what current KTH students think about their studies at KTH, you can follow the student bloggers, you can ask student questions online at the KTH website to the student program ambassadors, and you can also follow KTH on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All right, and so just in case you missed it in the previous slides, here are upcoming webinar dates. So make sure you jot down the date that you want to attend for the school webinar, and make sure to register at kth.se/meet. All right, well, thank you for joining this webinar. It's come to an end. Our Q&A will remain open until all of the questions that you have sent in are answered. And we'd like to say thank you to you for joining, and we
Thanks.
hope to see you here on campus next year. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.